and we should be good. So first off, I want to thank you all for joining me and volunteering your time to serve on this committee, help us find out the best situation for 179th Street moving forward. Your time I know is valuable, so I want to be conscious of that and respectful of your time. So with that, we will start this meeting. Let me pull up the agenda and the presentation, rather. So this is the third and final meeting of the Stakeholder Committee on December 8th, 2021. We're going to start out this meeting with introductions so everyone knows who's attending. We can begin with myself. My name is Matt Herman. I'm a long-range transportation planner with Public Works in Clark County. And I'm the project manager for this access management circulation plan. Let's move on to our consultants, beginning with the DKS folks and Rhea.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, I'm Rhea Flizikowski with DKS. I'm the project manager for the consultant team helping out on this.
Thank you, Rhea.
Amanda?
Oh. Go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Deering. I am also with DKS, helping Rhea out with the engineering work for this project.
Thank you, Amanda. Chuck?
I'm Chuck Green with OTAC. I've been working, giving a kind of an engineering viewpoint on the access and circulation alignments, and also we've been responsible for keeping up that interactive map that I'm sure some of you have been working with.
Excellent, thank you. And then moving on to our stakeholders, David Gilroy, you're on my list first.
Yeah, I'm David Gilroy. I was part of the Mill Creek Sub-Area Planning Group.
Thank you, David. Thanks for joining us. Eric Galimo.
Hi, Eric Galimo with SGA Engineering.
Thank you, Eric. Gary Vance.
Hi, Gary Vance. I am developing some properties to the north side of 179th Street. I am also working with Killian Pacific that owns 120 acres just east of I-5 on the north and south side of 179th Street. And so just coming to represent both of those properties.
Thanks for joining us, Gary. Jason Young.
Hi, I'm Jason Young. I'm the Director of Operations for Fairgrounds Site Management Group. We have an annual year-round lease on the fairgrounds to operate and produce the fair. We also work closely with Live Nation at the amphitheater for their concerts.
Thank you, Jason. John Pilling.
Yes, John Pilling with Clark Public Utilities on the electric side.
And thank you, John. Les McDonald.
Good morning, I'm Les McDonald. I'm the Development Program Manager for Clark Regional Wastewater District. I'm here because we are wanting to coordinate with the county and all the others on existing infrastructure and new infrastructure related to development in the corridor.
Thank you, Les. All right, now moving back to the presentation. So we have met 2 previous times. This is the third meeting of the group. We began in September introducing the project to all of you, going over the existing conditions and the planned improvements in the future. Back in 2020, the County Council approved a funding package for approximately $66.5 million of expenditures along the corridor. And the approval of that funding set into motion the removal of urban holding. Urban holding was basically a restrictor plate on urban development in the area. With that removed, properties in the Fairgrounds neighborhood in the Vancouver urban growth area can further develop. So we talked about those funding expenditures that are planned in the future, and then we also talked about the Arterial Atlas serving as our long-range circulation plan. In October, we talked about alternatives, and we will carry on that conversation this month. It does say November on there. I recognize that it's not November, but due to the holidays, this meeting was pushed out past the Thanksgiving holiday. So with that said, we'll move forward and then finalize this presentation by asking for your recommendation. There's some few people in the lobby. Let me admit those. Good morning. If you're joining us, hi David. This is Matt Herman with Clark County. We're just beginning our presentation now. So the purpose and need is really balance. This is what we're striving to achieve is this balance along the corridor. There's several different constraints along the corridor that consists of topographic issues, both hills and valleys. In order to improve 179th Street to its ultimate classification as principal arterial, a lot of cuts and fills are required along this corridor. Those cuts and fills really have a huge impact on access, both from private property and the collectors and local streets connecting to the arterial. We want to make sure that the infrastructure improvements have those access locations in mind in our plan, as well as correct intersection control for the corridor moving forward. Our goals and policies for this are really to preserve the safety and mobility for our traveling public. Safety is paramount when Clark County plans its streets and designs its streets to make sure that our safety is at the best that can be provided to our residents and visitors. So the intent of having a stakeholder committee is really to give us as county staff and consultants guidance, insight, and considerations for promoting that safety and mobility. We also want a team that guidance and insight with a lens of what's needed on the infrastructure side of things, both from the public street perspective as well as private development perspective, so that we can all flourish and move forward together. So we are guided by several different goals and policies within the comprehensive plan. The first and foremost goal is to optimize and preserve the investment in the transportation system. As I mentioned previously, there's approximately $66.5 million of investment going into the Clark County system. That's exclusive from the interchange reconstruction project, which is approximately $50 million coming in from the state in reconstructing the interchange at I-5 and 179th Street. So if you do the math, we're looking at approximately $110 million worth of investment, and that's just currently. I'm sure there will be more investment in the street system in the future as we improve this entire corridor from 11th Avenue to 50th Avenue. In order to preserve the investment, we want to ensure that there's adequate access spacing along this arterial, and that we work with our partner agencies, aka the Department of Transportation, to ensure that minimum access spacings are maintained. We also have a goal in the comprehensive plan to ensure mobility throughout the transportation system. So again, making sure that our investment in our transportation system is as efficient as possible. And not only can we move vehicles and trucks, but we can also move both pedestrians and bikes efficiently as well. We want to make sure that all modes of transportation are accounted for in our long-range transportation plans and within this corridor specifically, so that can accommodate safe travel for all. So our planning study is the Vancouver urban growth area of the 179th Street corridor. So that's on the west end. The bookend is Northwest 11th Avenue, moving eastward across the interchange into end at Northeast 50th Avenue. There are certain corridors or certain sections of the corridor where they interact with the interstate, and those points of intersections are coordinated with WashDOT as both our team and the WashDOT team move forward with the interchange reconstruction design. I should mention, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'm looking at my presentation, so if you raise your hands, I can't see you, so just go ahead and speak out if you need clarification. So throughout our conversations together, we've largely been focusing in on the interactive project website. This project website, I'll share it here soon. Has several different layers. We've all kind of worked through this. I hope you've interacted with this independent from the stakeholder committee and have played with it on your own. But there's several different layers that are added to this map that show both environmental constraints as well as topographic issues. One of the important things that we put in here were regarding the future grade of 179th Street and how that grade interacts with the existing terrain. And I'll go into details about that further in the presentation. Along with future developments that have some line work in here. And both the intersection control type is detailed. So this interactive web page also allows folks to click on individual parcels so that you can see the specifics of the zoning, the comp plan process or comp plan designation, as well as the amount of acreage and the different factors within those properties. And this is all interactive. This is all public data. So again, even as this committee concludes, this interactive map will be able for you to dive into and look at. Okay. So we've also showed you the Clark County Maps Online. That's our interactive GIS map, as well as several different DOT interactive maps. In the previous meeting, we discussed all of the different types of street classifications by the that are detailed in the Clark County Code. We do have two arterials, but one of them is only relevant in this location. That's the principal arterial of 179th Street. The other arterial is Patton Parkway, but so that doesn't apply to this study area. Our minor arterials, we have two different types of minor arterials, one with 4 lanes, one with 2 lanes. Those 2-lane minor arterials I'll show in the future. And then we have our collectors, 3 different types. One 70-foot right away with a center turn lane and bike lanes. One without the center turn lane that just includes bike lanes. And then another 60-foot travel lane that only includes, does not include bike lanes, replaces bike lanes with parking. So these major roads, these arterials and collectors are not, it's not allowed to have direct access onto these major roads. And direct access meaning property access. However, our local roads serve to connect our arterials and collectors to both storefronts as well as residences, driveways. And we have several different types of those. We have commercial industrial roads, 3 or 4 separate types of those that really serve as local roads inside commercial and industrial zoning districts. We have neighborhood circulators that are wider than local roads that connect the local roads to the collectors. And then we have the local road access. And obviously with these serve as the street front for many properties and connect folks from their garage or driveway to the larger street network. Okay, the next series of maps are new maps for you. They do expand on our previous discussions regarding the ultimate design and topography of the road with the existing terrain. So what you're looking at here is the topology from 15th Avenue, so east of the interchange, to 22nd Avenue. I am not showing the west of the interchange from 11th to Delphel Road because the future profile largely mimics the existing terrain and follows that pretty precisely. However, east of the interchange is where we're dealing with a lot of those cuts and fills. So you're seeing the 50-mile-per-hour design profile as the red line. You're seeing the existing profile as the green hashed line. And then the blue line is a reduced profile with a sag curve. So what you're seeing looking on from the left to the right, you're seeing 15th Avenue marked, if you can see the hand, marked right here. So there's some significant cuts that have to happen in order to bring that profile to its design speed. And then moving from the west to the east, approximately 17th Avenue, you're seeing where we go from the cuts to the fills that are necessary to bring that up to its design speed. So the reason the blue line is shown is we can bring that to the design speed if illumination is provided. That has yet to be decided if it is going to be illuminated or not.
Matt, a quick question.
Sure.
Yeah, on your profiles, your vertical scale, are those vertical grid marks on a 5-foot spacing? Is that right?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. You're right. Those are 5-foot what do I call them? Latitude lines, I guess. X lines. Those are 5 feet increments. So here you're seeing approximately 1, 2, 3, 15 to 20 foot fill that's necessary to bring that road up to its necessary profile and alignment. So moving further from the east, or from the west to the east, this high point right here is where the existing condos have its current access, and where the existing arterial atlas is showing the connection to the future collector. So that's the high point in the road, or the hill, as you can see. Okay. Moving from 22nd Avenue to the east, this goes past the 29th Avenue intersection. 29th Avenue is an arterial that connects to 179th. But you can see here, this is where when folks complain about the topology of 179th, we're really seeing that occur. So the green line shows the existing topography, and you can see the roller coaster of 179th Street. And the cuts and fills necessary to bring that to that future 50 mile per hour design speed. You can see a significant amount of fill that's necessary just to the west of the 29th Avenue intersection, as well as a significant amount of cut that's necessary on the west side of the intersection. And you all know this when you drive to that intersection. I don't want to say sneaks up on you, but that intersection happens right after you pass the steep hill. Further going eastward, we have an existing culvert that the stream and the culvert obviously won't be filled, but crossing the roadway fill will have to be necessary in order to bring that that road up to standard. And then a cut that's necessary just to the east of that. And then you can see this significant, very significant sag curve that needs to be filled. And here you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So approximately 30 feet of fill that's necessary. That's a lot. And then 37th Avenue, you start to cross the terrain. Moving further eastward, we have the existing BPA power line that's approximately at the same grade that's necessary for the design speed, with a cut that's necessary, a fill that's necessary at the existing culvert, and then coming down to the intersection with 50th Avenue. Any questions on this before I move forward? Okay. So we're moving on to our proposed alternative for the access management and circulation plan. This map replicates the interactive map, but puts it within the Clark County map template in order to move it forward through the adoption process. So when we look at this road, there's there's a lot going on, so I'm going to try to explain it. And if there's any questions, please interrupt me. But we have several different types of intersection control types that are defined on this map, and they are shown along the 179th Street corridor. Basically, a red eyeball is shown as a roundabout. A shared access right in, right out is shown as a blue square. Interim access or emergency access only is going to be shown as a orange and black triangle. And then a future right in, right out access that's currently a full access is shown as a purple hexagon. Along with the intersection control types, we're highlighting the changes that are necessary on the Arterial Atlas. Our additions are shown as yellow highlights on the street corridors. Our realignments are shown as blue highlights, and our removals are shown as an orange or reddish highlight. Within those highlighted marks are the future street classifications. So an olive color is a neighborhood circulator. Again, those neighborhood circulators connect our collectors and arterials to the local roads. And then we can go into details about that in the future. The red hash marks, so those red lateral lines, are shown as future roads. So if you go to those locations today, you're not going to see a road, but those hash marks signify that it's a future road that will be developed. So with that said, I'll go into detail on this map. We're showing Northwest 11th Avenue and Northwest 179th Street as a future roundabout. On the southeast quadrant of this intersection is the North Haven subdivision. That's an approved subdivision. And in order to accommodate the right-of-way, that right-of-way would, be north of the current alignment of 179th Street. So it'd be a jog in the northwest 179th Street corridor. Approximately, I believe that's Northwest 8th Avenue. We're showing a right in, right out, as well as Northwest 6th Street. So those right in, right outs, they would largely use the roundabouts at Northwest 11th and Northwest 4th Avenue to take left turns. So if folks taking the neighborhood circulator and wanting to go toward the interchange would not be allowed to take that left turn. So they would take a right turn, go around the roundabout, and then head toward the interchange. So we are showing a future neighborhood circulator going north-south at approximately Northwest 8th Avenue. Future neighborhood circulator at approximately Northwest 6th Avenue, and then a neighborhood circulator equidistant between Northwest 179th Street and Northwest 84th Street. In previous maps, we talked about a future neighborhood circulator serpentining through these wetlands, but in further consideration, we thought local roads can serve this need, as we're not sure what type of density you're going to get with these wetlands. So we thought rather than depicting the neighborhood circulator, we would have local streets serve future development adjacent to these wetlands. There is a future collector that's currently in our arterial atlas. That's why it's not highlighted as yellow. It's a proposed road that we're still maintaining with a future roundabout at approximately northeast 4th Avenue. This is the location for the fairgrounds and the primary access for the amphitheater as well.
So Matt, that's at Northeast 10th, correct?
That's no, Northeast 10th is to
Excuse me,
the
Northwest 10th, I'm sorry. No,
So
actually Northeast 10th.
I believe it's approximately northwest 4th Avenue is Jason, do you know? I tried to look. I don't think that road has a specific name that accesses the amphitheater.
Well,
But-
we refer to it as Fairgrounds Way. I mean, it's also called, I think, even 10th in a certain aspect. I've seen it show up as a bunch of different things on maps.
Okay.
I don't know if we always just rename it each year, if it
Yeah.
comes in with some sort of sponsorship, but we just refer to it as Fairgrounds Way.
Well, there you go. Let's call
Yeah,
it Fairgrounds Way. That's easy. That's easy.
Sure, that's the easiest way to do that. I mean, I guess as a territorial thing, if we want to compare it, since we share it with the amphitheater, I mean, we were here first, so.
All right, let's go with Fairgrounds Way.
Okay.
I like that. So Fairgrounds Way, we're showing with a future roundabout. And then northeast, boy, again, this is an unnamed road. I believe this is exactly where it splits between northwest and northeast. So let's call this northeast 1st Avenue or northwest 1st Avenue. I think they both apply. But this is right in, right out access, utilizing the roundabouts for the left turns. And again, the neighborhood circulator connecting this future residential area to the arterial. We are showing a future roundabout at Northeast 2nd Avenue. And the reason why we're showing this roundabout in connection with the neighborhood circulator is because approximately at this Northeast 2nd Avenue is the division between residential on the west and commercial on the east. So in our opinion, the roundabout was the most appropriate mechanism for distributing both commercial traffic as well as residential traffic. So we are showing that at that location with neighborhood circulators, again, serving to connect 184th Street to 179th Street and one lateral equidistant between 184th and 179th Street.
Matt, can you remind me that the zoning that is west of the commercial there, is that R15 zoning?
Let's go to the interactive. So mixed use.
Okay, it's mixed use, and then the yellow is R15, is that right? Or is that R12?
So that is, I believe, R115.
Okay. Thanks.
So that's the need for the roundabout at that location. And then Delphel Road, as part of the interchange reconstruction, is going to be realigned to go behind the chevron and connect with the existing Delphel Road to the south. That realignment is necessary to separate the traffic at the future ramps, roundabout ramps, and Delphel Road. So it's a safety issue why Delfell Road is being realigned. And that is the realignment of Delfell Road. While it is a county project, but it's very closely associated and coordinated with the interchange reconstruction project. Any questions on this section of Northwest 179th Street before I move forward? Okay. So moving from the interchange to the east, Union Road, again in coordination with the reconstruction project, will be disconnected from 179th Street, as well as Northeast 10th Avenue. So we are showing those as removals of the future roads. Between 15th Avenue and the interchange is a future roundabout. It's a three-legged roundabout at approximately Northeast 12th Avenue. That three-leg will serve both eastbound, westbound, and south of the Northeast 179th Street. In previous discussions that we've had with the property owner, they were interested in a north leg, but the terrain and water features, environmental features, make that northbound leg difficult to build and to connect to. So this roundabout will largely serve commercial development, commercial and office development to the south of 179th Street. To the 15th Avenue. 15th Avenue is being realigned and built. It's a new extension of 15th Avenue to the north. It's necessary for the area because of the removal of Northeast 10th Avenue. Since Northeast 10th Avenue will be disconnected, this extension of 15th Avenue will provide properties to the north access to 179th Street and the interchange. So we are forecasting, and it's currently being designed, a roundabout location at 15th Avenue. And that's existing. It's a signalized intersection, and that will be converted to a roundabout. Through that design, the team has been coordinating with the Killian Pacific property, and Gary has been involved in that, where the alignment of that future extension is being further evaluated and designed. That what we're showing changing is removing the old alignment depiction and making it consistent with what's being coordinated and designed today. We're also showing a roundabout on that 15th Avenue extension, and this will connect 15th Avenue to that large commercial property to the south. So again, I mentioned when I talked about the 12th Avenue roundabout, I mentioned how the north leg is difficult to build because of the topography and environmental constraints. Therefore, this roundabout here serves as the primary access to the future, or to the commercial land south of the future 15th Avenue extension. Okay, moving along further to the east.
Matt, Gary here. Can I bring up something on this Killian Pacific land?
Mm-hmm.
You and I spoke last week, and I owe you an email. My illness, postponed all that. But we talked about potentially removing that east-west road to the south, 176th Street, I think is what it is.
Yep.
Because all that entire commercial development, the Killian Pacific land to the north of 176, they want it to all kind of be one large commercial development that kind of backs up to that area, and then the other landowner to the south doesn't need or want that road. And I was going to send you an email about that, but I figured if we're talking about with the stakeholder group, maybe this was an appropriate time to bring that up as a potential change.
It is, and we did talk about that. The conversation was regarding the need, the desire from the development to the south to remove that, and that's why we were requesting the formal email or request to remove that from the arterial atlas. And then it will go through the comprehensive plan amendment process, the docket process. But until we receive that request, we need that request to move forward.
Perfect. And we'll get that to you this week. I just figured if this was the last of the stakeholder meetings, I just wanted to let the stakeholders know this might show up on a future
Sure.
map.
Sure.
So Gary, are you anticipating internal access roads through those two developments, the Killian and then the one to the south of that alignment?
Yes.
And will they allow east-west movement through those sites, do you think?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
At least the commercial development is planning on that, and I believe that the other development to the south, the Killian Pacific development, will allow east-west movement through the site. The and it's through parking, lot areas. The development to the south, I think, will have an access on Union Road and on was it 173rd, the next road to the south?
Yes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. The next, moving from Northeast 15th Avenue further east, this is shown incorrectly as a shared access right in, right out, Northeast 17th Avenue. This is an existing condo development that only has emergency access. So we will be shifting or amending this map to depict a emergency access use only rather than the shared access right in, right out. Okay. To the east of the condo development, this is Clark County not environmental services, Clark County clean water property, and this will be emergency use only. To the east of that, as we cross Whipple Creek, we're showing shared access right in, right out at these properties. These properties, if I go to the interactive map, let me remove the zoning. So these properties here are bounded by they don't have roads connecting to them off of 179th Street, so that will be right in, right out.
Matt, when you show those interims, are those full access or right in, right out?
On the interactive map?
Yeah, on their interactive map, there were two kind of little box triangle things. I see them over here. The interim full access, future, RI, RO, so future, and then interim access, future, emergency only. So
yeah, so shared access will be shared access right in, right out permanently.
okay.
Interim access, both at the apartment is interim, and then future emergency only.
So when it says interim, though, the one above it says interim full access.
Yeah.
The one below it says interim access. So
we combine those. The believe you can correct me, but I believe it's right in, right out, left in. So it's not full access. It's a three-way access.
That one that you're pointing to right there is one of my properties, and I was just looking at the preliminary plan approval, and it does say full access until the
Okay.
collector road and neighborhood road is developed. So that's one other thing that I'd like to have considered here is if the collector road and neighborhood network isn't completed yet, we know once that's completed, then the 179th access becomes emergency only. But if 179th improvements occur before the collector road and the neighborhood road, can full access be preserved? That's what the entitlement approval reads. Just for the west one, not for the east one.
Right.
Matt, I think they're correct, because when we went through the site plan approvals, that's what we understood as well. So those would be maintained in their current, there is no project, by the way, on 179th at this point, but they'd be maintained with the approved full access until 183rd Street is connected over, and then 22nd Avenue is extended down to 179th. So those would be understood by the development approval to be full access until those other conditions occur.
That's right. It also states that we have to allow full access for the one flag lot and the smaller parcel. So those two lots to the east need to have access through that interim access. Interchange.
So the difference between the two shades of diamond is one is future emergency only, one is future right in, right out.
So does that need to be changed?
They are future emergency only.
Okay, but one's full access and one's not, or one is, or are they both full access?
It doesn't, the orange one doesn't say, it doesn't depict full or half, or it just says interim.
And that was actually left somewhat ambiguous on purpose, because that's one where we're deferring to the development approval conditions. And in both of those cases, I believe the conditions do say full access to 179th until the alternative circulation is provided, and then it becomes emergency access only.
So one concern I have is that a lot of times as projects come in, the development review will look at this for guidance, and then you're looking at development review for guidance. So it's kind of one of those, if you have the one where on the planning for this, it shows interim full access, and when they go to do the land use decision, they're going to see that and they're going to say, okay, that's full access. So I don't know that, I mean, this map may have a broader use than you think. And they may use this to say, hey, because it's not the tan one or the gold one up here, I'm not sure what color that is. It's the orange one, then it's right in, right out. That's kind of what I'm taking.
Maybe
I want to
there's
make
a
sure
new
that's
color that
clear.
this one gets. I wonder.
What's
Just
up?
What'd you say, Gary?
I said maybe there's a new color that this particular driveway gets that says interim full access, future emergency only.
Yeah.
So the gold says interim access. You're suggesting just adding full to the gold or the orange?
Orange. If that's the case, I think there's two situations.
That's the only difference, is the word full is not in there.
Right.
Right, but I think like you have an orange interim access, future emergency only, you have others of those on there, and those would remain interim access, future emergency only. I think it's important to clarify that, you know, left in, left out gets preserved at this particular, you know, driveway until the local neighborhood roads are built. And maybe it's just a footnote in whatever. Maybe it, I don't know. Maybe you know, Eric and I are complicating it more than it should.
Okay. We can note that the interim access is based on the approval authority, and I can understand why you're thinking that there's a back and forth, but we're also developing this plan at the time that these developments are moving forward with approval process. So we want to maintain that they're consistent with each other. So it's not necessarily we're looking at development engineering for our guidance. We're looking to coordinate with them. So we can, we can add the word full into this. I don't think it will change the type can change from interim access to interim full access.
Yeah, maybe that one becomes the purple pentagon.
But if you change it to the purple pentagon, then the future is right in, right only, and that's
right.
not is approved. It's an emergency use only. So it's really just adding the word full to that symbol type.
Matt, I might suggest an asterisk. And maybe these where we have special conditions of development approval, I think Woodbrook might be the same thing. We might want to note and reference those specific development approvals and conditions, maybe by number or permit number, so that it can be looked up in the future.
Okay.
Because most of these interim accesses, after 179th is built, they're going to have a median that do not allow any more access. But some of them, you know, at least one that I know of, the one I'm talking about, should preserve after 179th is built, preserve the full access. It should be treated different than the rest of these that are labeled as interim access, in my opinion.
So emergency access means that if an emergency occurs, the first responders have access to that from 179th Street, versus a right in, right out that details that access is always available for the general public.
And, you know, and neither of those are the case. It's a full access at this one particular intersection after 179th is widened if the neighborhood roads aren't complete. It's just, I like Chuck's suggestion that, you know, some sort of asterisk to clarify, you know, one or two of these.
But after the streets are built, then it does become an emergency use only.
Yes.
So I think we're talking about two different time periods. What happens in between and what happens in the ultimate build out of this neighborhood.
We're talking about 3 different time periods.
Okay.
What happens between now and the time 179th Street is built, and then what happens from the time 179th Street is built to the time that the interior roads are built.
Hey, Clark County Kennel Club, I guess, wants 17 more rectangles for the show today instead of taking any.
Jason, I believe you're unmuted. You might want to mute yourself, or I can do it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I just muted myself because I had a radio call that was going through for an event that we have that's loading in. I had a question. I don't know if we're getting too far off subject on this, but this is one that I've been getting pressed for by the employees that I work with here, such as my other coworkers, as far as it goes with event traffic. And I know right now we're currently talking about the west or the east side of 179th, but just going back to the east side where the location of the roundabouts where we were discussing Fairgrounds Way, it looks like there's just one of a shared access right in, right out for the second, is that Second Avenue? I'm guessing, or okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
that looks like the Fairgrounds RV park. It looks like there's going to be a third at Second Avenue. Will these, are we still keeping 2 lanes of traffic in each direction on that? That we will have 2 lanes that are able to go around it?
Yes, that's so we have talked to our design team. We do recognize that with your event traffic management, at the beginning of events, you have 3 lanes going in, 1 lane going out, and then it's reversed when an event gets done, where you have 3 lanes going out and 1 lane going westbound.
Sure.
So those roundabouts will continue to be designed so that it accommodates your event traffic and those fluctuations with accommodating access to your site during high periods.
Excellent. So I think that'll probably pretty much be workable for a lot of the vehicle traffic. As far as the roundabout on Second Avenue, a lot of times we either have long horse trailers that access through that way to get to our equestrian arena. Do you think they will have an issue getting around those as they're towing them?
No, I don't think so. All the roundabouts are designed to accommodate large trucks. So if large trucks can go through the roundabouts, horse trailers should be able to move through those safely as well.
Okay, very good. I can't think of anything else, but you just answered my question. So I think this will be pretty manageable for us and probably a lot more safer going forward.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so moving back to this segment here, we evaluated, Eric brought up the idea of shifting the future collector further between the 2 properties. When we looked at that from a topographic perspective, and I'm going to go to this map here, approximately the location where that future collector would go is right here. So we decided against relocating that future collector and putting it at the safest location for site distance purposes, which would be right across from the condo complex. We're also looking at, instead of crossing the wetlands to the east of the future collector, we want to realign that neighborhood circulator so that it's along the property lines and avoids those wetlands. And then aligns that future neighborhood circulator with the property lines at a right in, right out access. Again, these right in, right out accesses will rely on the 2 roundabouts to the east and the west for their left turns. From 29th Avenue to 50th Avenue, we're looking at a roundabout that's currently in the design phase at Northeast 29th Avenue. Right in, right out access for properties just to the east of that future roundabout. And then emergency access for these two small properties. And then a right in, right out access that connects the neighborhood to 179th Street through a future neighborhood circulator. Emergency use access only at existing driveway locations, both to the let's see, east and west of Mill Creek. And then future, this was considered, Mr. Gilroy brought up consideration for the neighborhood south of 179th Street, east of Mill Creek. So we considered several things, and that those discussions ultimately led to a future collector that would connect northeast 37th Avenue to northeast 174th Street. That's accessed with a roundabout, and then a neighborhood circulator to the north. So this neighborhood circulator would largely serve the area that's bounded by the wetlands. And then the BPA right-of-way is shown right here. So this future collector would take a serpentine route to connect to northeast 174th Street, as well as provide residents with a more direct access onto 179th Street and westbound. We are planning to clean up our line work to show what is approved along with the Woodbrook PUD compared to what is currently in the Arterial Atlas. And that is with a direct north-south line rather than what's shown in the Arterial Atlas as a serpentine line. And then we want to add a neighborhood circulator that connects all of the properties both to the collector of 37th Avenue, south of collector on 174th that's currently in the Arterial Atlas and depicted, and then the future collector in this location. So that neighborhood circulator would circulate traffic or neighborhood traffic to those collectors. That Woodbrook PUD, I believe it's the final phase, I believe phase 4, is a future right in, right out. That again will use the roundabouts for its left turns. Emergency access to the property south of 179th Street and north of 179th Street. These are large single-family lots. I mentioned earlier the future collector that's not built today, but is shown in the Arterial Atlas with a roundabout location. And then future right in, right out access that takes the properties that front northeast 179th Street and connects them to that future collector. We have mixed use development, mixed use zoning on the southwest quadrant of northeast 50th Avenue. So that property will connect to the future collector at northeast 174th Street. Additionally, access will be allowed through the neighborhood circulator, as well as access right across from the future collector that's being built by the Woodbrook PUD. And planned unit development when I use PUD, public utility district. So Northeast 50th Avenue and Northeast 179th Street is currently planned long-term for a future roundabout. It is currently a stop-controlled intersection, and there might be, the design team is looking at interim improvements at that intersection before the roundabout is constructed.
Matt, this is Dave Gilroy here.
Sure. ahead.
Just a question. Last time I had mentioned this, and I know this is all about property and transportation and that, but have you explored, or is there any possibility, or have you heard of funding sources to provide a wildlife corridor connection to the Salmon Creek area, like west of, as an example, west of 37th there, where the Mill Creek tributary, flows underneath 179th Street, rather than a culvert, I've seen areas where they've actually, created a larger culvert, if you will, or half culvert to allow water passage, but also provide potentially pedestrian and or wildlife access across a 80-foot or wider stretch of pavement. It's quite a considerable amount of natural habitat to the south, including WSU and that corridor in there that won't be developed. So I know those things cost money, but and it has nothing to do with anyone making money. It has to do with preservation of a wildlife corridor. So I didn't know if you'd explore that, if that could be explored. If there's funding sources or that could be requested for that, or is that a practical thing to do?
Yeah, thank you for that comment. So what will happen is that Northeast 179th Street corridor, as I showed with, in order to bring that up to its design speed, it will have to be improved to its ultimate standards. During the development of that, we can look at building those wildlife corridors underneath where the fill would be placed. Near the BPA power line. That's an implementation thing rather than a planning thing. Along with this amendments that we're making in the long range circulation plan, this access management and circulation plan has an implementation guidance that's teamed with it. So those wildlife corridors, as well as the bicycle and pedestrian movements, will be captured and can be captured in that implementation guidance. As far as funding of wildlife corridors, as I mentioned, that can be paired part of the whole corridor improvement design.
So when is the implementation guidelines, how do they get developed, and when do they come into play? And
so that's the next step of this. Once we have kind of our guidance for this circulation plan, we'll be developing the implementation guidance to go along with how this corridor gets ultimately built. And that, I'm sorry.
When you say we,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm talking in generalities. I apologize. We meaning myself and the DKS and OTEC team.
So Matt, OTEC, and who?
Myself, Amanda and Rio with DKS, as well as Chuck with OTEC. And I'll mention that in the next steps of this as I move forward.
Okay.
Are there any more comments on this section of road?
Well, I guess, when Chuck was out, we talked about a few things that, kind of implemented, I guess, that are shown on this map with the access going along through the power lines to get to a roundabout and all that. Chuck had mentioned something, I'm not trying to hang you out there, Chuck, but about latecomer fees to, implement maybe some improvements on 174th when it hits 50th Avenue. Is that part of this discussion? Or, I know everyone's looking at 179th, but,
Yeah.
you do have 174th on there as well. Anyone comment on that? Because this new road, and this was a comment made by one of my neighbors, it's like this new road along the BPA, who pays for that if it's on BPA property that can't be developed? So, is that connector going between 174th and 179th or Street or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
Is that likely to be, even built? And so it puts a lot of demand on 174th and 50th Avenue in that intersection there that's very marginally meeting site distance requirements according to the traffic studies that have been done.
So in terms of the upgrades to 174th to make it a true collector, when development abuts or fronts that road, they are required to dedicate and build the improvements necessary to bring that up to standard. So it does happen through time. It's not all at one time. But as properties develop, they will be required to dedicate the right of way, build the
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I know how that works. I guess I'm speaking more of the impact to 170, the only way out, 174th Street to 50th Avenue, and that T intersection there. I mean, it is not even marked as a T intersection. There's no warning of people making left turns or right turns into there, slowing down. And, there's a dip on both sides, north to south. So what I'm kind of asking, I guess, is, can that be included in this circulation plan, or at least be, I don't know, someone use the word asterisk or whatever, but, it's going to have an effect. There's going to be a lot more traffic, obviously, just from the Woodbrook development itself and the activities on 50th.
right.
STEM school. I mean, the traffic has just gotten, increased a huge amount since they put that STEM school and that in there. So we're anticipating the same thing to occur from Woodbrook.
Yeah. So that intersection off of 179th Street is not in our planning area. I do understand that there are some significant site distance issues with that make that a concern. Our design team continues to evaluate that, whether it's needed as a signalized intersection or other intersection control type has yet to be determined. But it is continually evaluated. I know as far as a latecomers agreement to improve that, and then find a funding mechanism in order to pay for that. I'm unsure of the mechanism to do that.
Matt, if I could interject,
Go ahead.
Our discussion was, could that intersection be added to the capital facilities plan for
Okay.
or transportation improvement program priority list?
Okay. I'm following it. Okay, so yeah, we can evaluate it for consideration on the capital facilities program. That determination is based on our adopted standards, our level of service standards. We can evaluate it if it does fall in to the necessary, if it does meet the criteria that it needs to be upgraded, it will be added to the capital facilities plan. Once it's on the capital facilities plan, there are one could build the intersection and get TIF credits for building it. And that's a necessary, or it can move through the adopted channels and be developed as a capital project. So
Yeah, this is David here. I apologize if I
No.
misspoke my characterization of my conversation with Chuck. I'm throwing around terms here. I'm not, a professional engineer on this matter. So if I misspoke about representing what was spoken there, I apologize for that.
No need to apologize. There's times that both us as planners and engineers get too technical. So,
The only other thing I'd say on this, this M&H development, was part of the participant in the development plan that got the urban holding lifting, and then they're using this road here, the 174th, for access, in and out, to that. It got it lifted, So to me, that's why I'm going, why isn't it included, in this plan? I know 179th is the corridor, but you're also putting in intersections, on these other, as we go to the east, that are not on the actual 179th Street
Gotcha.
plan. So to me, it's not, we're maybe not getting equal treatment, I guess is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
any consideration, that I realize you got to draw a line somewhere, but that was part of the development agreement that was brought in, urban holding, to allow that to proceed, move forward.
So I will say that these, what we're depicting here, are depicted as either their full movements or their emergency access, or right in, right out. We're not planning on changing that with the 174th, 50th Avenue. We're not. It's a full access intersection. We're not changing that. But whether it's controlled by a stop sign or controlled by a signal has yet to be determined.
Okay. I'm assuming you're going to then explain the next step of where all this information goes into.
Yep. So let me skip this slide for a brief bit. So we will be drafting the final report at the end of this month. That final report will include recommendations from you, as well as it will include a recommendation from the stakeholder group, as well as what our overall plan is for the Arterial Atlas, as well as the guidance that I talked about earlier. That guidance is going to be how we implement this plan. A lot of times with the Arterial Atlas, it sits out there and waits, but that implementation guidance will give us the steps to move forward and see this corridor develop over time in interim periods and for the full development of the neighborhood and the corridor. Yeah, that implementation is will then guide our staff for the development of the entire corridor. We'll be moving forward with the SEPA process in January, as well as doing virtual public outreach in January as well. We'll be moving on to the Development Engineering Advisory Board in February. I believe it's the first Thursday of every month that the DEEB meets, that we will get on their agenda. The Planning Commission again in February, and then ultimately on to County Council for adoption. So with that said, yeah.
Matt, this is John Pilling with Clark Public Utilities.
Sure.
When would it be appropriate to discuss utility considerations?
We can discuss that offline. I have had a discussion with, I believe, Russ regarding the water service and with moving, taking horizontal changes through the roundabout rather than vertical changes, to be in the center of the travel lane rather than being disrupted by the weight of vehicles as they move over the water line. We have had discussions on that, and roundabouts for how water gets planned and built and coordinated with both the PUD and our design team.
Oh, okay, we can certainly talk some offline. The impacts to the power system are significantly different than the water system, especially the grade changes and the line work of a roundabout. And this is partially a feeder circuit corridor, but certainly a planned feeder circuit corridor. So there could be significant impacts to the stakeholders as well in development of those power systems through. And the grading, with the line serving existing load in there, keeping those customers in service while significant work is happening is challenging. So we'll talk some more about it offline.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's set up a meeting and we can make sure that the electrical service is considered in this as well, in the implementation.
Okay.
So with that said, we are seeking your recommendation on this alternative, and your recommendation will be forwarded to both DEEB and the Planning Commission. And then we've also had a technical advisory committee make their recommendation on Monday that corresponds to this proposal that staff is proposing. And then during the county council adoption process, they'll consider all recommendations, and those will be noted. So it's not this a recommendation onto one, and if the following body doesn't recommend it, then it dies. It's not the case. Every recommendation that is made will be detailed for the county council to consider. So with that said, I know that this group hasn't made formal recommendations previously, but I am interested in your recommendation moving forward.
Oh, sorry. Can we, so the recommendation, is there kind of a one-page recommendation that we're going to see? Is something drafted up that we can see what we're actually recommending? Is it just this here?
Yeah, so I don't have a specific phrase or anything for you to say, but I am seeking, you can basically say that the stakeholder is recommending moving the proposal forward, either as shown or as amended with the asterisks that you would like on the interim access emergency use only.
Yeah, I do think that would clarify things, having a little more detail on that. But.
So your recommendation, and tell me if I'm wrong, is to move forward with the proposed 179th Street Access Management and Circulation Plan with an amendment made to the type of intersection showing interim access emergency use only, with an asterisk for developments that are currently approved or pending approval, as shown.
Well, I think we can move that forward for discussion. So I'll make the motion.
All right. Is there a second from anyone?
Yeah, this is Les McDonald. I'll second that. If I may, I think we need to make sure that asterisk footnote adequately addresses those three phases that Gary was mentioning, from now until 179th is built, from 179th construction to all the collector support roads being constructed and then thereafter. I think that needs to be very clear for the developments that are happening in the corridor, that helps influence what type of access they're going to get on their projects through the ultimate development of this corridor road system.
Thank you, Les. You're right. And I think that footnote, we can go into details on the different stages of 179th Street built, or those collectors or neighborhood circulators built or not yet built. I know that it gets complicated real quick, but we'll try to make the footnote clear.
You kind of have an existing conditions, an interim period after 179th is built, and then a post 179th, or excuse me, post build out condition.
Yeah. The issue is it's never clear what what the first phase is of the interim period. But we can try to make sure that that's noted. Okay, so there's been a motion. It's been seconded. Are there any objections? All right, so with that said, I'll go down the line and ask for, I'll do this roll call since it's all virtual. Eric Galimo.
Hi.
David Gilroy. Did he step out? Gary Vance.
Aye.
Jason Young.
Aye.
John Pilling. He's no longer there. Les McDonald.
Aye.
And Scott Taylor.
Hi. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know your time's valuable. I've said this previously, but I want to reiterate it. You're helping make this community better, so I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the coordination that we have. We'll make sure that that footnote is clear as possible, and that it's shown for the approval bodies moving forward. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.